Welcome to this week's edition of the No Script Show, where thanks to election magic, load shedding has disappeared and our national football team has qualified for AFCON.
Which is apparently unusual for the South African football team to qualify for AFCON.
Okay, so I was driving through when I came back from my mental retreat, and
Yes.
and I was listening to 702 because I'm a masochist, and I was listening to Eusebius McKaiser because I'm a masochist.
Poor man.
And he actually said something that, God help me, I found myself agreeing with, and that is, we shouldn't be applauding mediocrity.
Yes.
Mediocrity, like the fact that we just qualified, not like decisively qualified, just fucking qualified. And he made a point that even though, look, we've gone down the shitter as a country, but essentially we were and argumentatively still are arguably still are the United States of Africa. Like we are, if Africa was the world, South Africa would be the US. We're the most powerful state still.
Yeah.
So we should not be this. It shouldn't even be a question that we qualify for that. Like, it should be a question whether we come second or third in every local like football. Like, come on, guys.
So anyway, welcome to the No Script Show. I'm Wogan. That was Odin ranting on about AFCON, and you can find us at noscriptshow.com. Sorry, I'm trying to put an intro in just like in the first couple seconds because apparently our podcast keeps getting syndicated elsewhere, and people that don't know about the website. So
really? Elsewhere,
yeah. Apparently, Pocket Cast I think is the main culprit. People tend to find it on there, and I see.
there.
And I think it's either Google or Spotify. No, it's Google. Google's going to start doing a thing where they automatically transcribe the content in a podcast and use that to power the search index. So we're very close to a future where people can search for problematic stuff inside podcasts and find the episode. Just so you know. I know.
Oh, speaking of dystopian futures.
Oh, fuck, no.
No, I mean, at least we're getting into tech first. Let me ask you a question.
Hit me, go.
Let me ask you a question. Do you go to concerts or sports events very often?
Personally, I do not, no.
Okay, so I want to highlight two things, partially because they're in my field of research and study, AI, and partially because they're fucking hilarious, okay? Recently, some time ago, facial recognition was used at a Taylor Swift concert to identify 3 stalkers who had been stalking her for a while, and the authorities used the facial recognition in the crowd, camera scanning, to apprehend the guys after the concert was done, or during the concert, I don't know exactly. Now, the part that's most hilarious about this to me is that to be a stalker, you have to be a fairly obsessed person. So that means there are 3 adult males on planet Earth who are more clingy and stalkery than Taylor Swift, a woman who has made her career off of shitty relationship choices and then milking albums out of those shitty relationship choices. Welcome to 2019, guys. Really? You guys, you're more stalkery than Taylor fucking Swift.
You see, there's a lot to process in that story because... First of all, where the fuck are the flying cars? The future I was promised, you know?
I'll get to that in a second.
Why is everything like people getting more shitty and tech getting more capable and like, you know, oh my God. Anyway, carry on.
Similar story. A recent Super Bowl, the police managed to apprehend 10 guys, 10 felons or whatever. I don't know how the US penal code works, who had warrants out for their arrest because, you know, the cameras scan the crowd all the time. And once again, facial recognition picked these guys up. And all the police had to do was wait at the entrances and be like, what's happening, boys? We got you. Now, there's something frighteningly dystopian about this, but it gets worse. In China, the government are now looking at, I know there's the socially engineered behavior game that they're doing, but now they're looking at using facial recognition to flash government ads at people and based on how negative or positive your reaction is,
Oh my
they're
God.
looking at taking you to government re-education camps to make you love the government more. And the reason I bring up these three examples is because it's a good example of how the same technology can be used for great good, because technically apprehending criminals and stalkers is good,
Yeah.
but also horrendous evil. And the libertarian in me also hates all three of them because, wow, that is some dystopian levels of
So,
government control. And
so just in parallel to all of this, mumps and measles are making a comeback in a big way. Like,
woof,
what
we
the
are one letter away from the R.
Yes.
MMR vaccine, one letter away. Thanks, Assia. One letter away from the R. Then we got the vaccine bingo. Boom.
So I just want to reiterate that somehow we are in a simulation that is a blend of the worst dystopian sci-fi movies ever, and we picked the worst elements of all of them somehow. And this is now the world we live in.
To be fair, on the whole anti-vax thing, right?
Yeah.
Once again, I'm pretty libertarian. I'm like, cool. If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine. I dislike the idea of forced vaccination for the greater good, because you can see where that road goes down. Oh, you have to do this for the greater. So I dislike the idea of forced vaccination for the greater good. But your choices are not without consequence. So if you're going to be unvaccinated, then we can choose to isolate ourselves from you.
Yeah.
Please don't bring your shit to us. And then the other thing is, the whole anti-vax thing is not really about adults, because by the time you're an adult, you probably have immunity to that because you had measles or whatever, or were vaccinated. The real problem is the children. They have no choice, and you're making a choice for these children for them.
Yeah.
And I fail to see how that doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, where you're damning these kids. They can't
Pretty
choose.
much,
You're damning these. So while forced vaccinations do sound shitty, I'm like, you're kind of damning these kids.
Yep. There's also, and the thing is, people are responding to that. Like, more and more, I see stories cropping up where, unvaccinated kids are being barred from schools, they're being barred from parks. Like, there's government officials are recognizing that this is a public health
thing. As a parent, I'm sorry. Like, I wouldn't want my kid playing with an unvaccinated kid either.
Which is, it's kind of nuts because, like, again, and I know that I sound naive when I say this, I could have sworn we fixed this shit 50 years ago. Like, we all agreed vaccines are a good thing.
And again, I'm saying, if you don't want to vaccinate your kid, fine. Just don't make it in such a way that the rest of us have to suffer for it.
Yeah.
It's just...
Again,
I'm personally glad my mom gave me the MMR vaccine and all the other vaccines.
So just incidentally, because the thing is, when this all kicked off, I just kind of took for granted I was vaccinated. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, shit, I can't actually say for sure that I was. So I just, FYI, public service announcement, Pathcare does have a procedure for doing a blood screening to check that you have been vaccinated. I'm going to do that in the next week. Just because I can't actually say for sure if I am or not, and I just want to make sure. So I'm doing this.
I remember being vaccinated at school, actually.
There we go, and I'm pretty sure I was as well.
Because they put in your arm and shoot little needles in.
Yeah, it's like they did that. I can't remember it as confidently, so I'm going to go double check, which is probably not a bad thing to do anyway. But yes, just that that is actually an option. But I saw, for me, the most dystopian headline in the last week is that there's a company somewhere in Ireland that's using this company, this startup, is building an AI to classify just company data of some description. To train the AI, they're using prison labor.
Wow.
I'm like, this is the most metal dystopian sci-fi shit I've seen in the last couple of weeks. A company using essentially human slaves to train a machine. Like, that's amazing.
Wow. I don't even know how to feel about that.
It's an inevitable consequence of, like, the incentives and the choices we make, but also, what?
Wow.
So we're there. We are in that dystopian Blade Runner future, or whatever you want to call it. There it is. Like we're living in it.
Wow.
Well done.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, dude. So we released our last episode on schedule on the Saturday, but we had to cheat and pre-record it because Odin over here needed a break, which I do not blame you for. So it's actually been like a week and a half-ish since we've actually kind of caught up.
I miss you too, big guy.
And it's like everything has happened. I think that's your line, actually. Everything has happened.
Literally everything has happened. I'm telling you, I told you, we are living in a Donald Trump fever dream. That's what's happening right now.
So any fans of sci-fi, if you've ever seen a Continuum on Netflix, there's a episode like 2 or 3 seasons in somewhere where the main character, Kira Cameron, ends up in the red timeline that's falling apart, and she has to jump to the blue timeline. And there's this scene where, as she's getting into the capsule to do it, there's a huge electrical storm that starts, and like buildings start falling down. That's kind of like I feel where we're going to end up. Like we're in the parallel universe that's fucked up, and at some point it's going to end, right? And I think you think this too, because no way this is real.
Yeah, but it's I try to I do a thought experiment with myself, and I'm like, okay, how would I explain now to me 10 years ago? And I don't think I'd be able to at this point. I don't think I'd believe myself.
Yeah, no, I also don't know. And this is 10 years ago, right? I mean, I remember 10 years ago. I remember News 24, what it looked like 10 years ago, with the narrow UI and the weird icons everywhere. Like, I remember that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell has happened in the last 10 years? What? Where did
Apparently
we go
a
wrong?
lot.
Where did we go wrong?
Apparently we just... Al Gore should have been right. The world should have just ended underwater.
Maybe. So, like, I did... I've watched all of Futurama recently, and like they keep making in-jokes about like time travel and how that world is on the dark path, and maybe this is actually what's happening. Like,
I saw one Futurama where it says you can't prove it's not becoming real.
Yes. And it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Maybe time travelers are real, and like someone went back from the past to stop something and set in motion the events that put Trump in the White House, and that's why we're here now. And it's like,
speaking of which,
yes.
Do you want to discuss the Mueller report?
Say the line, CNN. Say the line.
Say the line, CNN. The Mueller Nontreversy.
Oh, the Nontreversy, dude. That is excellent wordplay. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about it. It is a thing that happened, which is like...
Let's recap it for everyone. Let's recap it. Because for 4 long fucking years...
I don't... Okay.
No, it's like 2 years. I'm kidding. But it is 10 million years.
It is 2 years. It feels like 10. But it is 2. Since the day Trump was elected, they started this narrative like there was Russian collusion to win the White House. And the media pushed it so fucking hard. And they were absolutely convinced that, they were convinced Hillary Clinton was going to win, right? They were absolutely convinced that the Mueller report would exonerate them and prove that Trump somehow sold out the White House. And the whole time this is going on, I'm just thinking, okay, so Trump is a Russian spy who bought the election. And you can't impeach him, but you can impeach Clinton for a blowjob. Explain this to me.
Yes, yeah. Also, they were absolutely convinced that Hillary Clinton, the most unlikable, most hawkish, shittiest politician of all time. I think she actually has a Guinness World Record for the shittiest politician of all time. The most unlikable, most hawkish, most cynical woman on planet Earth. You thought she was going to win. A woman who didn't even campaign through half the country. Not only did she not campaign through half the country, but she spent time dunking and shitting on half of her constituents and
basket
expect them
of deplorables.
And you expect them to vote for you? Are you insane, woman?
So what's crazy about that? Just to go slightly tangent. There was an experiment. I think it was like New York University or something. They did an experiment where they had 2 actors each analyze the mannerisms of Trump and Clinton.
Right,
their speech patterns, their body language, and the language they used. And then they swapped the roles around and they replayed a debate where they had a woman arguing as Trump and a man arguing as Clinton. And the woman came off as far more likable than the man did, just because of the way she carried herself. And it's like, when they did that, I was like, do you see why people like this man? I don't like Trump, but I understand why other people do.
I would, okay, I think he's pretty sleazy
Oh, yes.
in many aspects. I do not like his infidelity. I do not like the way that he
What?
beats down on good people that disagree with him. You
Yeah,
know, he's Biff. He's Biff from Back to the Future as the president.
exactly.
So I do not like the way he beats down on people, good people like that disagree with him. But I think that a lot of the policies of his administration have been objectively good for the United States and the world.
And this is the part that's insane. Like, he's the bad guy you're supposed to beat. And in this crazy alternate timeline we're living in, he's the one who won the election. Like, what? And then it's, and it's like, you talk about, like, I know people with the same sort of vibe as Trump, the same sort of shallowness, reactiveness, saying whatever to get past. I know what those people are like. And it still astonishes me that despite the fact that they've been handed probably the worst public communicator and the worst character in history, the media keeps attacking things which aren't real, and then they're proven false, and then it's like, oh, you see, this wasn't a thing, therefore Trump is right. And it's like, could you guys just, for a fucking minute, stop scoring own goals? Please.
Please. Right? Okay, you know what, gang? I'm old enough to remember when this was a sure thing. Trump is a Russian plant. Okay, I didn't believe it for two reasons, and I've mentioned this before. Firstly, Donald Trump is the guy in high school who couldn't shut the hell up about how many girls he scored at the house party last weekend and how many beers he drank. If he was colluding with Russia, guaranteed he would have let it slip at some point. He just can't shut up about it.
This is the grab him by the pussy president. Like, do you seriously think he can keep a secret? He was the guy who got up in front of the world and said, oh my God, you should see what's in my national security briefings every morning. No. No.
So, you know, okay, that's the first reason. That is the first reason. The second reason I didn't believe it was true was, if there was a hint of collusion, I mean, Robert Mueller had the team that was touted as the best, most aggressive, most capable investigators in history. If there was a hint of collusion, this would be absolutely massive. And to me, after about a year and 2 months, it started to feel like they knew they had nothing and they were just stalling for time. You know, like when you're in school and you're like, oh shit, I didn't do my homework. Maybe I can stall for time until the bell rings. Well, that's what Mueller and crew were doing. They were stalling for time until the bell rang. Unfortunately, the bell never rang. And the American media went insane over it. People were fetishizing Robert Mueller. There were devotional candles, Mueller jackets. Celebrities were singing "We Wish You a Mueller Christmas." It was insane.
At what point did America, the country, become an RPG with factions? When the fuck did that happen? Because it's happened. Like, no, and the thing is, I just saw on social media, like, I don't usually spend time in the feeds of, like, Trump and his supporters and detractors, but I've seen people, like, whenever Trump tweets something, Mueller's going to get you, you're on your way out. You know, there's all these kind of people egging this thing on. I knew it was bullshit about 2 weeks in, honestly, because after 2 weeks of this explosive allegation, they just started recycling the old claims and kept bringing new arguments for it, but no new evidence emerged. And I'm sitting here thinking, if there's somebody out there that's sitting on a piece of paper that can prove that Trump did this or any kind of evidence, they would do it right then and there. The reward for torpedoing the presidency in its infancy would have been a massive reward. Nobody did it. So at that point, it's like, okay, you guys are just making shit up. And you're feeding your own echo chamber. Like you would see, CNN comes up with something and then suddenly it's everywhere. And it's like, okay, I've seen this movie before. We just lived through the Trump election. This is the exact same tactic.
Yeah.
Okay, no. And I just, for me, and then so coming back to the actual report, I mean, it wasn't even Mueller's report, and this is the part that I love the most. It was Barr's summary of it that leaked, and then it's like, you're based on the summary, there's no collusion, and so everyone in Trump is like, you see, and then everyone on the other side's like, no, we should wait to see the full report. Bitches, you didn't wait to see any evidence before convicting the president of being a Russian agent. Now you want to wait. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And again, it's like, it's not as if there aren't things you can legitimately criticize him for. But for some reason...
Thank you. There are so many things you could hit this man on.
I know.
Like, dumbass trade wars. But you know, most of his policy, I think, is or his cabinet's policy is pretty good. But there's so many dumbass things you could hit. Like, why do you focus on it's?
I mean, I know. I'm astonished. I really am. I mean,
this is why I think it's intentional. Like, you can't be this bad at your job. This has to be intentional somehow.
And I'm coming to the same conclusion. It's like, I think we've transcended.
It has to be.
No, we've transcended reality now. The news media doesn't care about holding power to account. It cares about the appearance of holding power to account, which attracts far more viewership. Because actually holding power to account is boring as fuck. It's Senate meetings, it's laws, it's not exciting. This is exciting, you know? Shout out to Conscious. He shared a clip with me. Somebody did a cut of like the whole, like all the CNN coverage of like the Russiagate. And every month it's like, this is a bombshell. This is a turning point. This is a turning point. This is a bombshell. Bombshell, bombshell, turning point, bombshell.
Yes.
Turning point, bombshell, turning point. And it's like, report comes out, fucking nothing. Like, good job, guys. And it's also like that destroys their credibility as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
it does. And okay, I will say though, there is one politician in America, aside from Donald Trump, who came out smelling like roses from this whole thing. And her name is Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, I've seen you tweet in support of that. Yep.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Tulsi Gabbard, we've discussed before, she's actually an anomaly because, again, she ticks all the intersectionality boxes. She is a, I believe, Hawaiian mixed with something else, Native Hawaiian mixed with something else woman. She is Hindu, but she's also fairly pro-gun. I mean, she's what you'd call a blue dog Democrat, where it's the kind of Democrat that even a heartland Republican voter might end up voting for. And she's an actual good, well-tried and tested combat veteran.
Yep.
And she's a capable. So she garners a lot of respect from a lot of places. And she came out and she said, okay, guys, Mueller's report said there was no collusion. And she said to everyone, you should be glad that it said no collusion, because it would have been a terrible thing for all of us if there was collusion. It could have even led to civil war, which would have been a terrible damn thing for the whole country. And she said, it's great that there's no collusion. Can we all please move on and work non-partisanly for the country? And I guarantee you she'll either get no attention or she'll get buried by her own party.
I again, this is the timeline where a 2-year investigation proved conclusively that the president was not a Russian agent, and that's a bad thing. Like, did you want a Russian agent? I think they did.
She's the only Democrat. She's the only politician, never mind, who's like,
dude, no.
Hey, this is a good thing. Good. Let's move on. Put our partisan politics aside and move on. And I'm like, am I insane? Why is there only one person in the country who's saying this? Like,
No. So what's going to happen is that she's going to get destroyed in the primaries, and AOC is going to be the next Democratic candidate. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, she can't run for president.
Oh, can't she? Oh, thank God.
She's 29. You have to be 35 years old to be president of the United States. 35 years old.
Good.
Yeah.
So because I need to call
But
attention.
that doesn't mean she isn't running for president in spirit, because let's face it.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, as far as most of the Democratic Party is concerned, AOC's ideas are everybody else's ideas, and they are, and a lot. I mean, you can see people like Cory Booker and Kamala Harris who are sort of suddenly careening far left.
Is fake Spartacus still here?
Hold on. I am Spartacus. Rah!
No,
Sorry,
dude.
that's
oh my
the best I
God.
can.
Yeah.
And then Kamala Harris, aka California's biggest narc, who apparently smoked weed but had no problem arresting and ruining the lives of people who did the same thing. Kamala Harris, thanks, good going. So,
So anyway, whenever AOC comes up now, then the very first thing I think of is who is it? Senator Mike Lee with his charts.
Oh, okay. Before we get, let's get into that whole thing right now. The charts and the vote on the Green New Deal. Let's get into that. Let's start with the charts. Take it away, bro.
It was, and it's actually again,
people who don't know what happened.
So basically, there's this thing that the Senate can do where they debate policy, and there's like kind of this meme where they'll have like the the senator and a big easel, and they'll put up charts and graphs to explain what they're talking about. So Senator Mike Lee takes it up and he's like, okay, he's going to give the Green New Deal the seriousness it deserves. And he like starts picking the bill apart. And like, for example, well, if we get rid of airplanes, we're going to need another means of transportation. So he brings up a shot of a Tauntaun from Star Wars and says, this is how people in Alaska might need to get around now. It's like, how do people get to Hawaii without planes? We got this. Aquaman with you riding a seahorse, you know. And there was another chart, which was
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan on the Velociraptor.
This is...
There was, and I swear to God, yes! This is true. Oh. We will tweet this from the show's account. I've got the screenshots. Literally, it's like, because he talked about the Cold War, which was won without firing a shot, but next to a picture, a painting of Ronald Reagan with a machine gun and a rocket launcher on a Velociraptor, you know, taking down the wall. And I'm just...
This is in a Senate meeting. Oh, God.
But dude, you know what was everything? Like, him doing his thing was amazing. And the fact that he said he wasn't sure if he could keep a straight face, and he did, was amazing. The thing that sold it for me was how difficult the assistant, the woman sitting there, had to keep a straight face. You could see on her face. She was like, what the fuck? That was amazing.
Okay.
And I think my favorite one is just like the most infantile chart, because the rest are all kind of poking fun, but I think the best one is he spoke about the fact that they want to get rid of all the cows in the United States because of the greenhouse gas emissions. So he puts up a chart with like divided in half, cows before the new Green Deal, cows after the Green New Deal. And I'm just looking at this and going, this is like Sesame Street. Like, that was probably, yeah, that was the most entertaining thing coming out of C-SPAN in like the last 20 years, easily.
It was that and Lindsey Graham 2.0. Lindsey Graham going apeshit on the Brett Kavanaugh. Okay, the other thing of the other half of this was Mitch McConnell, turtly Mitch McConnell, cocaine Mitch. Okay, so we pointed this out earlier that the Democrats proposed the Green New Deal, and we did point this out that it's like an argument with a couple where everybody just heightens the stakes. Well, you want to do this? Well, I'll do this. You want to do this? Well, I'll do this. Well, the day finally came. Turtly Mitch McConnell, cocaine Mitch, Senate guy, put things to a vote, and he said, "Okay, fine. You guys wanna do this? You guys wanna propose this?" He said, "Fine, cool. We'll put it to a vote." And he put it to a vote. Guess what happened? Just guess.
I'm guessing it got shot down because...
Okay. Of all the Republicans there, all of the Republicans obviously voted fucking no.
Yeah. 3
Democrats voted no.
Yeah.
And then the remaining Democrats voted present. For those of you who don't understand, in the Senate, the Senate people can vote no, yes, or present. Present just means I'm here, but I'm not voting either way. But effectively, on something like this, it means no.
Yeah, so it's an abstention, basically. Like, you're just choosing not to vote, yeah.
Exactly. And the remaining Democrats all abstained. Every single one. That means Kamala Harris. That means Cory Booker. That means everyone. That means, what's his face? The guy who sponsored AOC's Green New Deal. I can't remember his name, but it wasn't Harris or Booker. But that means literally everyone who was on board and like, yay, Green New Deal, even they voted abstain. Yeah. And then the 3 that voted no are 3 in districts that are, I think, red or purple, and they're at risk of losing seats. And so they voted no. So effectively what happened was it escalated to the point of, well, I'll do this, put your money where your mouth is, and you couldn't do it. And then afterwards, AOC said, oh, no, I told them to vote abstain. And we voted abstain as a way of protest against a silly way to torpedo our deal. I'm sorry, torpedo your deal? All you had to do was vote yes, and you could have gotten your deal. What am I taking crazy pills here?
No, you know, it reminds me of the EFF, actually, in the Nelson Mandela Metro. At one point, they brought a motion, and then it devolved to the point where they voted against their own motion, and then won, and then called that a victory. So, yes, this makes sense in Greek politics.
there's an old spoof kung fu movie, Enter the Fist. Was it Kung Fao or Chow Fung or something? Enter the Fist, where the main character was just called Chosen One, and
It sounds like a
and
dumb movie. I like it.
and one of the characters at the martial arts school is a guy who they taught badly on purpose, and his one of his abilities when he's fighting is like, now you'll face the fury of my face to your fist style, and he like just takes shots to the face, getting fights. He's like, see how I bleed? I'm definitely beating you now. And this whole situation reminds me of that. Kung Pao into the fist. That's what it's called. Yeah,
Uh,
that's what this whole situation reminds me of.
but it's also like, and the thing is, I did when the Green New Deal came out, I did actually read through it and criticize it because it's obvious from the first paragraph that this is not a serious policy proposal, and it never was. The whole point is to rally, and I will try and find.
It is okay. Here's the thing that gets to me about the Green New Deal. It is fucking stupid. Okay, there is this characterization that if you are not for the Green New Deal, you just want to fucking destroy the environment and you don't care. Bitch, I live in the environment. I care a great deal about the environment. By the way, I take my bicycle to anywhere within 5 kilometers of my house because I want to save on fuel because it costs a fortune here in South Africa, and I'm doing my bit for the environment. I recycle weekly. Trust me. I use my entire like bathroom soap range is stuff that's not tested on animals or shit like that. Okay, believe me, as far crazy right winger as I am, I really do my part.
We do live in the environment, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So the characterization is, if you're not with us, you're against us. Like, it's not like we don't want renewable energy. It's not like we don't want a better way. It's we don't want to do something that's a forced great leap forward, like Mao did, and just like starve and destroy everything.
They really should have actually attached great leap forward to this. But the thing is, I know that, look, so the Green New Deal, I mean, I picked it apart, I looked at its foundings and origins, and the reason it won't work is that no actual economists were involved in drafting it. The first time Green New Deal became a thing, it was a journalist who argued it. Like, just imagine a world where X, and then it kind of picked up steam from there, with people are like, this sounds like a good outcome, without any thought as to how we would actually tangibly get there. And that shows in the actual language of the proposal, which I read cover to cover. And the thing is, it's immediate in section 1E, like right at the top of the document. It's immediately obvious what she's trying to do. And I will quote section 1E. To promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous peoples, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth, referred to in this resolution as frontline and vulnerable communities. The whole thing is a rallying cry for everyone screwed over by the system against the system. It has nothing to do with changing any economic policy. That's what this whole thing was a giant fucking virtue signal. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, in that list and throughout the whole language of the deal, it's obvious. Not once does she mention Americans as a concept, right? This is us versus them. Americans belong to America. It's this old system founded by colonialist oppressors, and we have to rise up against it, us, the frontline and vulnerable communities. And that's all this was. So the fact that it got shut down is perfect, because she can now point to that and go, see, they don't care about the future. Only I do.
Exactly.
This is politics 101.
I mean, you know what annoyed me is that she said, "Oh, you don't care. You won't have to care because you don't have to live in the environment." By the way, AOC, we're your age. We don't.
Yes.
Do you think we're gonna be alive for pretty much as long as you'll be alive? Trust me, we will live in the environment with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I saw that and I saw the language of it, and I knew it was going to fail because. The thing is that you can only actually pass a bill that is workable, meaning that there are people willing to commit the resources to engage in the endeavor. And reading this, nobody is going to do it. So I'm not surprised. But this is just like, I'm looking at this and going, this is where American politics is now. And unfortunately, and this is such a huge problem, that politics affects basically everyone who speaks English. It hits the entire Anglosphere. So in South Africa, so I want to talk about the Purple Cow Party for a bit, if I can.
Go ahead.
You're going to do it.
I consent to that.
You consent to that. Okay, great. We're not shilling at all. No, it's interesting.
No, we're just for the record, we're not paid by the Purple Cow Party, the Purple Cow Party is not paid by Israel. They're actually surprisingly transparent about their finances.
Yeah, to the point where you can ask anyone in the party for a screenshot of the donations list, and they'll give it to you. It's not that. No, but there was an interesting thing. So one of the plans is 2 or 3 of them actually involve firearms, and how the South African police.
Oh yes, I love firearms. Sorry,
love firearms. And there's a bunch of people that support it because, of course, and then there's a bunch of people who reject it because they live in areas where they feel perfectly safe and they don't see why anyone else should ever need a firearm. But what's interesting is we've had a bunch of people arguing in South Africa that we absolutely shouldn't let people have assault rifles. And I'm like, but you already can't. And it's like, well, what about kids shooting up the schools? When was the last time you heard of a massive school shooting in South Africa?
Pretty much never.
Yeah,
there was a kid that cut up his schoolmates with a katana to Slipknot. That's
like it, And it's like a lot of people have this very Americanized view of guns, which is weird because we're not in America.
Yeah. Well, actually, okay. To a slight correction, you can have what people call quote unquote assault rifles. You can have an AR-15 platform gun in South Africa. What you need to have is that you for self-defense license, as I have concealed carry, you may have a pistol or a shotgun. Mm-hmm. I carry a pistol. For semi-sport shooter or dedicated sports shooter, then you can have a self-loading rifle, which is a semi-automatic rifle, which can be the AR-15 platform type design rifle, or various other types of rifles. So you can have that.
And just FYI, AR-15 doesn't stand for assault rifle; it stands for Armalite rifle.
Yes, Armalite Design 15. Yeah.
This is because one of the arguments is, of course, it's an assault rifle. It's called an AR-15. It's like, no, dude.
So it's so stupid. The other thing that most people in this country don't realize is that if you have a DUI or domestic violence or any sort of criminal record, you're busted. You're not going to get a gun.
Yeah.
You're legally required to have a gun vault where you put stuff in. Mm-hmm. You have I can show you now. Okay, I don't have my wallet on me, but you're legally required to carry your firearms license card, which is your gun is linked to you. The US doesn't even have a central firearms registry.
Yep.
Your gun is linked to you. Everything, like that gun does something, you're responsible for it. Okay. And you have to renew it every few years. You're legally required to write a test on the laws surrounding firearms, and you're legally required to write a physical competency test. I know this. I am a member of GOSA, quite happily so. I've gone through this process. Yep. Trust me, I know this. It's very controlled. In fact, it's the kind of gun control that Bernie Sanders dreams of. So believe me, guys, it's okay.
Not. So the thing is, like, that's the situation now. I have walked into Walmart in the US and seen hunting rifles in the camping gear section as the natural consequence of their gun laws. We're never going to get there as South Africa. Like, we're never going to get to this point.
Unpopular opinion, I have nothing against the US gun laws.
Oh, yeah, no.
I really don't. I think it's been wildly misrepresented. You don't just walk in and buy. Yes, you can walk to Walmart, you can buy the gun, but there is a background check.
Yep.
And even though, unlike us, you're not legally required to write a test on the laws of whatever when you can use a gun, they do background checks. It's very difficult. That gun show loophole thing that people keep quoting, total canard. It's not true.
And this is the problem. Because
you can't have a gun.
And this is the problem, right? I keep talking about the Americanizing beam, and it's a real thing because we do most of our conversations on Facebook and Twitter here in South Africa. It's the dominant social platforms, which predominantly push American narratives on things. So when you talk to somebody about gun regulations or gun control, the first thought is, oh, you mean like in America to stop the school shootings? And no, it's a very different situation here. And so it's this one thing that I found very curious, that so many people don't seem to be aware of what the situation actually is in South Africa. Just to remind you, there's a court case underway at the moment where police officers from like the Western Cape SAPS are arrested and being tried for selling guns to gangs. That's an actual
Yes,
thing that happened.
I mentioned this on Twitter
Yeah.
a year ago, where I was like, guys, for all the gun control you have, corrupt officers like, oh, you should take guns away from citizens. I'm like, cool. Corrupt officers sell or even rent out serious firearms to gang members on the weekends for crazy amounts of cash.
Yeah. I just like, I'm like, and the thing is, are you not aware of this? And it seems like a lot of people aren't, because most of the information they have is shared from like people on Facebook who like sharing shit to get likes, and then that, they're like the conduit for the virus. And then the virus is actually that, people in the US are trying to sort out their shit. And it's like, well, it's got nothing to do with us. We're a very, very different scenario. So anyway, that's just one interesting thing to note, and that's all I'm going to say on that, because still a long road to May the 8th day. It's going to be a long fucking month next month. Jeez.
Oh, by the way, random side note, shout out to Kenny Day or Katie Johnson. So I found a cosplay chick who cosplays as my favorite fast food. She cosplays as Wendy's from this food. I freaking love Wendy's. Yeah. I will slit my best friend's throat for Dave's double combo. I'm not even
good
kidding.
that I know this, that I'm at opposite sides of the country from you, so you can't.
Well, I mean, when you come visit me, I've got a separate bedroom. You can lock yourself in. But yes, I'm willing to slit your throat, Wogan.
Locking me in, and you have a gun. Are you setting up like an Oscar Pistorius Valentine's Day situation? Is that what's happening here? I have second thoughts, dude. I have second thoughts.
Oh my
God.
Yes, I'm willing to murder you for Dave's double combo. So this chick, who is admittedly quite attractive, cosplays as Wendy's from Wendy's, and it's just wow. It's just mwah.
You see, I look at that and I go, that's kind of where. All right, so cosplay is this thing that happens off the back of a whole lot of other stuff. You have a strong entertainment culture, and you have conventions, and you have people that appreciate, all these sorts of alternative ways of being entertained. And that rolls into eventually cosplay. And in South Africa, we have basically none of that. And I look at that and I'm like, that's just sad. That's just really sad.
It is sad. It is sad. Very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, go.
Yeah. Rando shout out to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the new manager of Manchester United, my favorite football team. And a random shout out to my boy Sid, who apparently works with me, and we followed each other on Twitter for 2 years. It was a bit of a fan meeting a fan type situation.
Don't embarrass him on the show. Come on.
No, I'm not going to mention stuff about any specifics where we work, but shout out to you, bro. You're very cool, and thanks for not making us meeting weird, and thanks to Conscious Caracal for connecting us.
Thanks for not being a creep. Is that really? That's where you're going with? So if we're going to talk about creeps and
no, I'm just giving random, we're doing a quick shout out to slow down the show a little before we get into some other stuff I want to discuss.
Jussie Smollet.
Oh my God, yes. Okay.
Here we go, motherfuckers. It is all on.
You go into this. Dive into this, boy.
I don't even want to, because
Jussie, I still don't understand. Is it Jussie or Jussie or Jessie? I don't understand.
I'm gonna call him Hate Crime Smollet, okay? Just for my ease of reference.
Okay. So, I'm just trying to get the pronunciation. So
the pronunciation is should have been in jail, Smollet.
Cap it off for everyone. Quick recap of the timeline progression, everything.
It's so depressing. Okay, so quick recap. A third-rate actor on Empire was unhappy with his salary.
Which is huge with the MAGA crowd, by the way.
Yes.
Literally everyone who voted for Donald Trump is a huge fan of the show Empire.
Which is all about black people making music, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because obviously we all know that in the Deep South, 50 Cent and Tupac are right up there.
Okay, jokes aside, the only thing keeping many mediocre rappers alive these days is suburban white girls and suburban white kids who desperately want to be black. I dare you. Freaking go in America and even here, I dare you. Play the latest mid-range rapper song. I guarantee you, white girls will be twerking all over the damn dance floor. Like I walk in, I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? I thought I was in Pretoria East, not in Soshanguve. Like I mean, both parties are great. I just go to different parties for different reasons.
Yeah. So anyway, Jussie Smollett, hate crime Smollett, basically engineered a hate crime. What eventually came out, his accusation was that he
Self-threatening letter.
Yeah, so there was there was a threatening letter, which I'm guessing he wrote and sent to himself.
Yes.
And then he was
proven, yes.
walking home from the bar one night when two white guys in MAGA hats beat him up.
Don't forget the Subway sandwich.
What was the Subway sandwich?
He's come from Subway, having gotten a sandwich at 2 a.m. in Chicago, in the middle of a polar vortex in Chicago, which, by the way, voted 87% for Hillary Clinton. Continue.
So it's a MAGA stronghold, right? Chicago is clearly a white supremacist stronghold.
Just MAGA hats and Confederate flags everywhere, and just like burning Obama effigies everywhere. Like, it's just MAGA country, man.
So he's walking back from Subway at 2 a.m. in Chicago in the middle of a polar vortex with a sandwich. We don't know what type of sandwich because he didn't think that far ahead. When he's accosted by two big white guys wearing MAGA hats saying a bunch of shit like, go back to your country. They beat him up, they hung a noose around his neck, and they poured bleach all over him, and then left him in the corner, which is a little bit weird because I've never heard of bleach being associated with these attacks.
Hey, this is MAGA country, man.
Exactly.
This is MAGA country.
So huge outcry, huge outrage, huge support. Chicago Police Department looks into it, and about a month later, the case falls apart because, as it turns out, Jussie Smollett paid a couple of Nigerian brothers to do that to him. And they know this because they found the money, the rope, and the bleach in the apartment of these two actors who confessed to being paid by Jussie Smollett.
And the magazine which they used to cut out the letters, and also a hand-signed check that he gave to the brothers, and also his call logs, which he had originally redacted. They then got the unredacted records because he claimed he was on the phone to his manager before. And Surprise. They found he had called the guys to make sure they get the stuff for the attack. And also, I'm sorry, so you get attacked and you somehow hang on to your Subway sandwich and also walk through the lobby room to your apartment like, oh, hey, Jeff, Doorman Jeff, I'm just going to keep this noose and bleach on me. I'm just going to chill in my apartment.
I stink like bleach, but this is normal. Carry on.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. The insanity, I'm partially set off by the insanity of this, but I'm also deeply incensed because Jussie was willing to testify against two innocent, because he was going to testify against these, and he was willing to testify against anyone they managed to catch for this crime to sit in jail, and he was willing to testify against him for the sake of upping his profile so he can get paid more. That was the thing. Psychopathic. It is fucking pathetic. It is fucking disgusting. It is a terrible perversion of justice. Fuck you, Jim.
Exactly. So basically, it's a bad episode of NCIS LA that he watched and then thought, I'm going to do this because it'll work. So then it comes to the point where this is all out in the open, and then before it goes to trial, the prosecutor drops the charges. And
let's not forget how the prosecutor dropped the charges.
Go into it.
There's that collage of him hanging out with Michelle Obama, and guess who got him off from the charges? Michelle Obama and his connects to Michelle Obama. Yeah. They called the prosecutor, and they're like, cool, we're going to drop the charges. Now, you can be pro or anti-Obama as much as you like, but that's still a shitty thing to do.
Yep. And then on top of everything else, I do appreciate the Chicago Police Department's response to this. They're like, we have spent so many man hours. We have taken priority off other cases to solve this. And at the end of the day, it's all a massive put on, and he gets off because of his connections to American royalty. Okay. And
also the mayor of Chicago, who's pretty corrupt himself. When the mayor of Chicago, or former mayor of Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, also comes out and is like, this is disgustingly corrupt. That's like if Jay-Z came out and said, this is disgustingly corrupt. Like, yeah, you know when this person's saying...
I know. And it's just...
Chicago is a city where there are the south side of Chicago. They call it Chirac. Chicago, Iraq.
What?
Jokes aside,
Iraq. Wow.
you should follow a guy called DJ. Who was it? Was it DJ Smiley or whatever? There's some DJ there who catalogs what happens there, and they call it Chirac because it's like Iraq but in Chicago. And there's this a notorious area called O Block where rappers like Chief Keef and all that. I know most people listening won't know about these rappers. Rappers like Lil Durk, Chief Keef, all that, yeah, and DJs like Young Chop. They came from there. It is horrendous the level of shootings that come out of that thing. And it's the most blue, most gun controlled city. It's supposedly impossible to get a gun there. Most blue, most gun controlled area. Every single weekend, without fail, tons of people either get shot or killed from a shooting. Black babies in Chicago do not sleep in fucking cribs. They sleep in bathtubs because that's the best way their mothers can think of protecting them. Black Lives Matter. You wanna bother about a dude that got beat down by cops? What about the millions of black babies that are getting murdered every weekend in Chicago by drive-bys? School children. This is something that personally infuriates me.
To our audience, then in my narrative voice, you can tell it offended Odin.
Like, it's something it makes me foam at the mouth. I just want to fucking just.
I know.
Yeah, it's shitty that Cletus and crew punched Tyrone because he has a white girlfriend. You know what's way shittier? Daquan and his bros shooting up little Susie on her way back from school. Daquan and his crew fucking shooting up a school or a house where one of their rivals lives, and by the way, his innocent little baby brother sleeping on the couch because they can't afford a crib gets shot as well. This is the type of shit that drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I'm foaming at the mouth about it.
So yeah, and so these are the, you know, and that's all the Democrat Party, and these are the people we're going to take advice on for guns. Okay, got it. So anyway, I feel like I've lost track of all the shit that's happened in the last week because it's like an overflow. I mean,
there's still so much to discuss.
I felt like I should have made a list.
There's so much to discuss. Like Ben Shapiro apparently being the darling of the alt-right, the alt-right sage without the rage.
So
Ben Shapiro, quite literally the most Jewish man on the internet, the man who, by the way, demonstrably got the most threats from the alt-right in the last 2 years, I think, of any person on the internet.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro. He's the darling of.
So just to be clear, we live in a world where the alt-right will openly and with great impassion proclaim that they hate the Jews and everything to do with them, and then nominate Ben Shapiro as their mascot. Okay. All right, sure. No, I want to observe that and not pass any judgment on the insane idea that the alt-right would have a Jewish figurehead, because what? I'm not even in that universe. I barely listen to anything Shapiro says. I don't know anything about the alt-right other than like sort of what from my point of view. But even I'm like, guys, come on.
Shapiro's like the most milquetoast. So I mean, he has some neocon tendencies, but he's the most regular milquetoast, mildly conservative Jewish guy out. Extremely Jewish guy out there.
The thing is, he argues forcefully, and that's it. Like, that's the only thing he does that's like, you know, a little bit beyond being a loser. But like, calling Ben Shapiro the hero of the alt-right is really like saying the KKK is led by Martin Luther King. Like, at that point, you're completely screwing up your interpretation of this.
For those of you who don't know, The Economist. I think it was The Economist. Yeah, it was The Economist.
Oh, they apologized, by the way.
That's what I was going to get to. But yeah, to their credit, they eventually apologized, but the damage was done. Yep. It was out there. They published a article by the name of "Inside the Mind of Ben Shapiro," the alt-right sage without the rage. Shapiro proceeded to absolutely flay them, and rightfully so. And eventually, after people dunking and shitting on them, they eventually issued an apology. So the two most integral people right now are The Economist and Tulsi Gabbard.
I love that whole thing, that it took a massive backlash for The Economist to go, hold on a second. These people that we know for a fact hate Jews have a Jew as their leader. Like, guys, just spell check your shit and like have someone else read it and go, this doesn't seem right. Are you sure?
It's like, okay, let me put it to you this way, right? To make that claim in the first place, you need to either have no understanding of Ben Shapiro and or no understanding of the right, of the alt-right, and or you have to be incredibly intellectually dishonest. And I'm inclined to think at this point it's a bit of a combination of all of those things with the media right now.
Yeah, which is like, just remember, like, if you ever needed a prime example for why you shouldn't always trust the media to get things right, is that the fact that Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine at one point. You know, just FYI, I'm not making this up. It's not a Godwin's Law reference. I'm not trying to shoehorn Nazis. There's an actual photo of him on like the 1937.
I was Time Person of the Year in 2006.
Were you?
Yeah.
For what? What did you do?
Seriously, guys, Google Time Person of the Year in 2006.
I'm going to do it because I think I know what this is.
He's about to discover.
Yeah, I'm searching it, and yep, it's the Mirror. It says you. Well done.
Yeah,
we were all
Time Person. I actually put that on one of my iterations on my CV, and like in the interview, the guy's like, "No," I'm like, "No, Google it," and he's like, he sees it, and he's like, "You know what? That just for that, great." Yeah, I'm like, right?
Oh my god! But no, I just like So just like we're approaching the end of this, and there is actually a topic on this, which is the media that I do want to talk about locally. Just as an FYI to remind people that News 24's holding company is in the shit financially speaking. So a while ago I tweeted out their Media 24's annual financial stats, and like the last 2 years they've run huge losses. So it's not surprising that their reporting has become so shit lately. But one of the things that is equally frustrating here is that every attempt to solve a problem or challenge the narrative is like pushed back on by the media to the point where it's like a trope now. It's just like you can state a fact plain as day and have a bunch of think pieces written that are completely ridiculous. So I just like, from my point of view, and this isn't even a thing I'm thinking much about or trying to build or whatever. It's just I'm genuinely worried about the reach of good and integral media in South Africa, because there's stats.
South Africa, not just the world. Like,
it's
come on.
It's like the world. The world is one thing. South Africa is the country I live in. So you know,
we live in a global world now. Come on, globalists global. Sorry, let me do my best, Alex Jones. Globalists.
So the frogs are already gay. We've established this.
Okay, but the thing is, Alex Jones was right.
Yeah,
Alex Jones was right on a lot of stuff. Not about the frogs, but a lot of stuff.
But the point I'm getting to is that newspaper circulation is shrinking. The stuff that sells the best is sensational garbage. And online, more people are getting the news from Facebook, and Facebook's own filters are equally garbage. And you can see it in the way people perceive themselves and their relationship to South Africa. It's like so many people are living in these bubbles. And I'm not even like one of those radical activists, wake up sheeple. I'm not one of those. But also I clearly fucking see it. There are people that just don't seem to grasp the situation we're in. And it blows my mind because all the information is there. And there are people you talk to who are like, no, it's fantastic. We just got back from a skiing holiday and Dan just got a promotion and we're good. And it's like, dude, do you realize how few people are actually in your position in South Africa? No,
yeah. I mean, look, I would say without revealing too much of each of our own lives, but let's be honest, you and I live fairly comfortable lives relative to the rest of the. I mean, if we had the same skill sets as we have right now in, let's say, the United Kingdom or Germany or the United States, we would be living significantly even better lives. But even still, in here, in deepest, darkest Africa, you and I still live good lives, but we are painfully... Okay, I mean, not to play the whole hood angle, but I still have cousins and family who live in and there are some good and bad areas, but in places like Atteridgeville and in Soshanguve and all the Pretoria and Joburg townships, and I still visit them, and so I'm kept starkly aware of the reality of my situation as compared to them. So I know we live good lives,
We do.
but that's not the reality of the country, as you're trying to say. Like,
Yeah. So what I want to do, we've come to the end of our show now, but because so much shit has happened, among them the fact that I've sort of started volunteering for the Capitalist Party of South Africa on the digital marketing side, and I've actually started engaging a lot more on this point. There is actually
Zionist chill.
yes, Zionist exactly.
How much did the Koch brothers buy you for?
Literally nothing. I'm still waiting for the check. But so what we're going to do, and this is a first, is there's going to be a part 2 of this dropping tomorrow, because there is a lot more to talk about. And for my part, I actually want to get into a serious and considered accounting of where we are as South Africa. So you can kind of think of it as like an election special. Not that we're going to analyze the parties or anything. I want to look at South Africa.
Please no. I really don't want to.
But
Let's start.
But what I
like,
do
I
want
have
to do,
actual science to discuss.
so there's actual science to discuss, and that's in there, notably how far behind we are. But I do want to spend some time just like accounting for where we are as a nation at the moment, because I don't see our news media doing this, and for my contribution, I actually want to run through the numbers that I have, and we talk about where we are versus where we're supposed to be. So, Odin, if you're up for that, we're going to release that tomorrow.
We are going to release that tomorrow, but we are going to pre-record it, so it's going to be like McDonald's, which is frozen and never fresh, unlike Wendy's, which rocks ass.
Oh my God, you shill. Okay, you know what? Then I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it now. I'm Team Five Guys. So.
Wow!
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I can't do square burgers.
No script shows Civil War has begun in earnest. Wow.
If you want actual burgers with real fries, it's Five Guys. I'm sorry. It rhymes.
Okay. 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 That's how you're gonna run it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us at noscriptshow.com. All our details and episodes are there, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers, guys.